Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to another episode of Embrace the Face. Today, I have a very special guest for me. Her name is Kara Melendy. Kara, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Ali. I'm looking forward to connecting with you today.
Yes, so Kara and I connected via Instagram. Seems to be where I meet a lot of my people, but I love it. It's like we're building this little community. And Kara not only has a master's in psychology, so has a whole background in the Western medicine world, but also is an Akashic Record Practitioner and an astrologer. And I personally can attest to her amazing healing abilities, her guidance, her ability to transcend into multi-dimensional realms and bring healing to not only humanity, but you've come a long way in your own healing as well. So go ahead and share your story. The stage is yours. Kara's going to share about how she followed her heart to get where she is today. So thank you so much again for being here, and go right ahead.
Thank you, Ali. Yeah, the Akashic Records is truly transformational. So, my journey and my background traditionally is in psychology. I actually worked as a psychotherapist before branching off to the work that I do today. And, I always say in my earlier years, I think if astrologer or Akashic practitioner was like an option we were presented with in class, I probably would have totally jumped on it, but maybe
Same.
it is nowadays. But like back then, it was more if you really want to, help people, be of service, psychology was kind of the avenue you went down. So I felt pretty drawn to psychology actually from early on. I remember doing a presentation on it when I was like 12. I think even prior to that, I really felt called toward it. And it's just something that really spoke to me, this idea of being able to help others on their journey. Like I always just had that strong desire. And I think it also spoke to me because I was fascinated with the mind, how the mind works, how the brain works, and wanting to help myself because I had struggled a lot with anxiety or even just through my parents' separation. There was a lot of like stress and trauma that I wanted to resolve as well. So it was for me, but also that desire to help other people. So I went down that path and avenue, and I actually ended up getting my master's in psychology. And I learned a lot along the way. I learned a lot about reprogramming the mind, which I still bring into my work today, like a knowingness of where these beliefs come from and how they're held in our subconscious and how they really dictate a lot of what we experience in life, how we see the world, what triggers us, what causes those emotional responses. Like it's all coming from that subconscious programming, and we have the ability to update the mind and the brain. So I learned so much that helped me with anxiety as well. Just that knowingness that I don't have to stay stuck in these old patterns and I don't have to suffer. Like there is another way of seeing things. So it really, really sparked that journey. And how the spirituality came in, which I know is a very different path. Again, I always felt very spiritually connected as well. And I think there's certain things in life that just continue to call to us and speak to us until we answer it. And I feel that's a true calling. Like a true calling doesn't go away. It doesn't mean we don't have doubts and fears, but a true calling will keep coming up and speak to our heart until we just say yes and lean in and follow it. So early on, while I was still working as a psychotherapist, I felt called to astrology again, which I loved since I was a kid as well. But this time I was called to dive deeper. So not just understanding like zodiac signs or those fun readings in like the magazines.
Cosmo. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, love Cosmo. Tiger Beat, was that one too?
Tiger Beat. Oh my God. Yes. I love it. We're like the same age. Yeah.
So I was obsessed with all of those. One of the first places I'd go would be like horoscope. So with astrology, though, anybody that studies astrology, like it's actually so much more than that. So I really dove in this time to understanding like the moon signs, the different planetary placements. And I was just learning, and I started to bring that into my practice with my clients, where I would look up their chart before even connecting with them, just to get a better idea of how I could connect, how I could build.
Oh, I love that. And this was in your like Western psychology, clinical psychology. Oh, I love that.
like, yeah, still doing like the mainstream psychology thing, but I started to bring in astrology, and like some of my clients were totally open to it. But even if they weren't, like, it helped me just seeing their energies to know how they communicate, how
Mm-hmm.
they tend to present versus what their personality like really like is, right? Because we kind of have an outer image or rising, and then the sun sign more our personality, or moon, what we need to feel safe and secure. So it really helped me connect on a deeper level. And that just kept speaking to me, the astrology piece, the energy piece. And at that time, I don't know if there's still really a strong separation, but it was like the mainstream, and then there's energy psychology, which is a totally different thing. I had no idea. I was pretty young then as well, and just like open. I'm like, the more tools I have, the better. So I started studying energy psychology as well, and just kind of going to conferences and learning for myself. And it was very different than like some of the mainstream tools that you would use, like cognitive behavioral therapy. Energy was like, it was like a whole new world that opened up, and I loved
Very
it.
cool. Very cool.
So it pulled me in. And it was kind of, I became aware, I was kind of naive, like some of those energy practices you can't bring into mainstream, like you're kind of limited with what you can do. And I'm someone that hates to be limited, so I branched out on my own and started marketing more as a coach, where I was able to bring in these tools that I knew could really help people, and where I wasn't limited. And then it just kind of took over and pulled me more into that world, where I entered the online space, started to grow my business. And where the Akashic Records came into it was actually when I was growing my business, and I was starting to hit these plateaus, and I was seeking help and support in getting to the next level. And I saw someone that did Akashic readings. So I went to her, and I noticed a shift after just one reading. Like, I felt so different after just like the one session. I felt clarity coming in, and it's actually, so much changed in my business just after that. Like, I got clarity for a group to open, for the name of the group, for the direction I was meant to go in. And I dove in more and more, eventually to the point where I got certified in the records, where I now certify others in the records, because it was such a game changer for me in really living out my soul purpose and moving away from like the boxes I put myself in, to more what I'm here to do and express. So it like blew up my business. The records is so, in the best of ways, it's so much more though than just like the business growth and abundance, although it really helped me with that. And now I love to help other people with that piece. But it helps us with healing trauma. It helps us align to our highest path, to gain insight on our multidimensional gifts. Like, it offers so much. So that's the piece of my journey. And now today, I mean, I'm full in on astrology and the records, and helping other spiritual entrepreneurs grow and expand their business by working with these energetic tools. And then I still bring what worked from my psychology days, especially around the reprogramming and healing piece.
Oh yeah, that's so important. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. I love nothing more than hearing people say that they are like-minded as me, and I don't usually follow the conventional rules, and I love that you just like we're like, "You know what? I'm going to bring this into my practice, and I'm going to see how people feel about it," because it's true, because we, especially as a nurse in the Western medicine world for 15 years, we are only taught one way. And within the first 2 minutes of you speaking, I wanted to stop you, but I wanted you to finish. Did you know, I'm sure you know this, but this is for the people listening, that in ancient times, in ancient astrology times, ancient like philosophy, Aristotle time period, when medical school, in like Roman time periods where medical schools first started, medical astrology was actually a requirement.
Ooh, I love that. Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard in some parts of the world it's still brought in more. It's just like in our
probably in Eastern medicine, and in medical schools abroad.
Well, and I mean, health astrology is a whole thing too that you can really dive into and study. Like, that's the beauty of astrology. There's so much you can do with it, but it gives us like so much information around where we could hold like weakness in our body. where we're more prone to experience illness or difficulties or tension, what our strengths are. And then when you look at the transits, which is what's currently happening in the cosmos and how it's influencing our chart, that can reveal so much as well around what may be happening in our emotional health and well-being, but also our physical. So I love that you shared. That's so cool.
Yeah, like I remember when I first learned, and this is just in general, I remember when I first learned about me being an Aquarius, and I have issues with my legs. I have horrible neuropathy in my legs. I had weak ankles. A lot of my physical therapy and my rehab had to do with, and Aquarius is directly related to the legs and the lower extremities. And I remember when I learned that, and then I started learning a little more about myself. It really, and then I showed my son, who's like an old soul, very sensitive. I showed him his chart, and he cried like healing tears. Like, so it's okay that I get upset sometimes. And I said, yes, this is just how you process. This is how you are. So it really is all healing. And this is, myself and my son have been in the world of trying to find therapists that work for us, cognitive behavioral therapy, or, trying to find somebody who you resonate with. And sometimes you just got to mix a little bit of both and get the best of both worlds, Eastern, Western, the cosmos,
Oh, I love that, Ellie. It's so true. And I love that, that's such a gift that you're able to sit with your son and help him better understand himself. And, the fact that he cried tears of release, it's like he knew you were tapping into his blueprint, right? Like he felt it so deeply, like, wow, I'm seen, I'm heard. And prior to even getting into it, like astrology, I used to be big on personality tests too. Not that I'm not anymore. Like, I think they're fascinating, and I've learned a lot through personality tests. And I always say, like, astrology is like the best personality test because it's our blueprint. So it's more than just our personality. In fact, our personality is just one small aspect of who we are. Like, our astrology shows so much more. It's like coming back to our truth. And I think that's what clicks and resonates with people so much. It's like, and not to put down personality tests again, they're awesome, they're fun. And there's something about astrology that just like hits people a little differently, really feeling like I'm heard and I'm seen on a deeper level.
Oh yeah. And I have to say, I was totally impressed and blown away with during my session with you, when you showed me my chart, and you just knew, you were like, okay, so this is why you're going through this right now. This is why you have this. This is why you have, like, for me, like, okay, yeah, I'm a quadruple Aquarius. I'm weird AF, and I'm eccentric, and I'm like, I think outside the box and whatever it might be. But like, other than that, when people like Aries, I know my daughter's an Aries. Today's her birthday. She's fire. My son's also an Aquarius. My husband's Earth with Capricorn. Other than that, I don't know. People tell me all the time, like, well, it's because it's such and such this. Like, I wish I could be like that. It goes through one year and out the other for me. So it's really impressive. So if you do not know Kara, I will share all of your information, and you are 100% worth the visit to virtually for healing. So, and then with that, even the Akashic Records, for those who don't know what the Akashic Records are, they are an astral plane where I was personally properly trained how to get to your Akashic record. It is record of everything we've said, thought, and did in all of our lifetimes, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I love to bring both together, like the astrology and the records. So I see the records as taking us back to our unique soul journeys. So the Akashic field, more than anything, how I see it is it's a frequency, it's an energy that we learn to access, tap into, even hold in our fields. Like, a lot of people, when they enter the records, they feel this sense of coming home, or they feel like overwhelming emotion, but in the best way, because a lot is releasing. They feel that connection with their spirit team. There's so much love. Like, it exists in the frequency of love. There is no judgment in that space. And then we have our unique records, which is our soul story, our journey of the soul throughout lifetimes. And when we connect to our records, we gain so much insight around past lifetimes and also the highest path for this life journey. And there's so many things we can do in the records. Like when I certify others, I really help them find like, what's your niche? What are you called to do in this space? Because there's so much, like we're tapping into so much wisdom. I love to help people align to their highest path. And then with that is, okay, what are your multidimensional gifts? What are you called to share this lifetime and living in like overflow and abundance and receiving? And I really feel like what we desire is a glimpse as well into what is written in our records. So our desires are a glimpse into what is written in our records, waiting for us to claim so we can really trust them as well. So, yeah, I mean, everything you shared about the Akashic Records, like spot on. That's exactly
okay. I just want to make sure, because it was a long time ago that I was trained. Okay, so I'm kind of on point, but no, I think I always feel when I do in my own meditations and I visit my records, I always feel, like you said, a sense of home. And like for me, mine is a giant library inside of a giant greenhouse. That's what so what you're saying basically is that if anybody listening, if there is something that you are envisioning, that you are dreaming, that you are thinking about or picturing in your life, taking a step towards, are you saying that this is your higher self guiding you along the way, showing you little glimpses here and there?
1000%. Yeah. I think our desires are a glimpse into what is there for us to claim. And then we have our human fear and programming. Like we pick up programming on our journey about who we are, which is formed pretty young, right? Those first 7 years.
Yes.
There's research suggesting even prior to that, like 3 and 5, there's already so much really.
Yeah, like our core values are implemented. Yeah.
Yeah, what we believe, how we see ourselves. Now, of course, the good news is we can reprogram all of that, which we had kind of touched on as well. So in the records, though, it brings us back to like the purity of what we're here to do. And it's not that our higher self is superior to our human self. Like, it's amazing that we get to be here in these physical bodies. Like, that is a gift. Our higher self is not better than our human self. It's a different aspect of who we are. Our higher self doesn't carry some of the baggage and beliefs we've picked up on our human journey. It doesn't have the ego.
Yes, they only know love. Yeah.
Love, right? Love,
yeah.
Potential, possibility. So yeah, I mean, anyone listening, if you have that dream, it's like, it's normal to have the doubts and fears. That's human, but it means you're destined to achieve it. You wouldn't have that dream if you weren't destined to achieve it, if it wasn't meant for you. And when I say destined, it is, yet that doesn't mean we don't take action. I think some people may hear that and be like, all right, I'll just sit back. It's like, well, no, we still
we must do the work.
do the work. We totally must do the work. And, you know, that's part of being here in physical form, is knowing our ability to take those desires from the energetic realm and actually experience them in the tangible, the physical. Like, that's exciting, right? It doesn't become exciting is when we start to doubt ourselves, or we get frustrated that things are taking longer than we think. Like, there's many reasons that the joy could be taken out of that. But I think essentially we're meant to enjoy it. We're meant to enjoy the earthly journey and that process of seeing things come to fruition, the manifestational process, or how I see it as like, it's more about co-creation, conscious creation, because they're always manifesting. But are we intentional? Are we consciously manifesting? And are we manifesting from a space of the programming, what we think we're supposed to do or should do, or are we listening to where our heart, our soul is really guiding us?
Oh, I love it. It speaks to my heart. It speaks to my soul. That is, and believe it or not, this morning, probably an hour before we started recording, I made a reel on that very thing, that very concept. So, about trusting the niggle, trusting your intuition, believing that if you have this idea that keeps coming back to you, but it seems like impossible or that's ridiculous. No, it's not. Like, you are the creator, but you must do the work. So like, by teaching people these small incremental changes on my end, and then when they visit you and they go into the Akashic realm and they get this like quantum now healing, because really that's what it is. Like, if you, like when you walked me through a past traumatic issue for myself, like I hugged my little self, my little 3-year-old self, and I released that, and I told her that I loved her, and that is the quantum now healing. And then after those healings, you then process that, and you're like, okay, like I shed those old layers, and now I'm ready to move forward and expand. So by implementing small little incremental changes day by day, or one day sitting down and finally getting to that email list and you know, sending out a newsletter, whatever it might be. Clearly you can tell I have work to do, but that's on my radar. But like those little things, like those are the things that we have to like stop pushing aside if we want to make this version of ourselves come to fruition, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, it makes so much sense, Alia. Absolutely. And I love everything you shared there, even just going back to like your journey in the records. And thank you for sharing that and how
I mean, it's true. And it's hard. It brings up a lot of emotions, and to simultaneously process that, as well as remind yourself that you are not that old version of yourself. And the neuroplasticity, you know, you talk about retraining your brain. So like MRI studies show that within 8 weeks time, if you on a daily consistent basis tell yourself you love yourself, loving kindness, after 8 weeks, your gray matter changes. I'm sure you know this too.
Yeah. Studies though that bring together like the science of measuring what's happening as we're changing our beliefs, because it used to be thought that like our brain is what it is. It can't change. It can't heal after an injury, or we can't reprogram. And now we clearly know that's not true. Like that was old.
Yeah. Modern science does have its positives. Like it does have its benefits to our world, that it's showing that we are superhuman. We can do anything.
Like how amazing is that? Like to like really, when we think about it, that we're able to do the reprogramming, that we are able to heal. And you know, something you shared too about like the quantum healing, it is in the now. And that's exactly it. Like we can revisit the memories from the past, and we're doing it in the now. So the healing is happening. And it's like we're going back. Anytime I do inner child work in the records, it's like going back and getting that part of us that's stuck in that trauma and getting them up to speed with who they are today. It's exactly it. If we just kept up with who we are today,
I'd be a million different versions clashing into each other all at once.
Yeah. And like, there's so much, and we're always expanding and growing as well. So it's quite the journey. And, you know, another thing you shared there around like the practices and doing the work, how I see it as well. And this has helped like a lot of my clients to frame it as like devotion. We're devoted to the things that really move us forward. Because I know sometimes the idea of discipline, like people don't like, it's more like the masculine discipline. And I think the feminine version of that is like devotion. We're devoted to the things that we know support us. So even though it may not
I love that.
To like sit down and write the email, we're devoted to our business. We're devoted to our message. We're devoted to our community. And it's like when we see it that way, it shifts the energy too. So
I love that. Yeah.
It is like, would my future self be happy that I've taken this action? So that kind of puts it in a new light as well, outside of just what I feel in this moment. What would my future self be grateful that I did? What's moving me along on that highest timeline and path?
Yes. What will your future self thank you for? A friend of mine always says. I love it. Okay. So speaking of future, even though there's no such thing as time, quote unquote, as I say, let's talk about this eclipse coming up. So how can we calm the fears of everybody? What are we looking at? What are we going to experience? Give your insights, please, if you will.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I know, like people may be watching this at a later time too, so they can even think back, right? I guess we're the first eclipse that we had that we're referring to specifically would be like March 25th, 2024.
Yes.
Watching this, and we're working up to April 8th, solar eclipse in 2024. The thing about eclipses, though, more generally, because they do happen every year, they come in pairs. They're always a time of change and transformation, significant changes. We tend to see a lot releasing and clearing out during eclipses, especially lunar eclipses. So lunar eclipses happen on a full moon. So there's an element of releasing releasing, clearing, letting go. Solar eclipses happen on the new moon, and it's new beginnings. So it's what we are stepping into. And we see that dynamic of we need to release in order to step into the new. We can't be in the same habits, entertaining the same beliefs, and then expect the new version of us or new results. So that's why it's like this releasing and clearing out to align with the new. And what makes eclipses so powerful is they happen on the nodal axes. And in astrology, the nodal axes are the karmic points, the nodes of destiny. So the south node is the past. So the recent lunar eclipse that we had on the 25th, that happened on the south node. But again, whenever you're listening, eclipses always happen on either the south node or the north node. The south node is the link to the past. It's the healing, releasing what we are letting go of. And in our birth chart, we each have a south node placement too. And that shows where we have been. It's actually one of the indicators of past lifetimes, the gifts we've developed, what we've navigated in those lifetimes. The north node is always directly opposite the south node. And the north node is what we are here to lean into, what we are here to embrace. We all have that placement in our chart as well. And again, eclipses activate north and south. So the north node is where we are going, where we are heading, what we are called to lean into and embrace, and it will stretch us. So our north node in our birth chart, it will feel uncomfortable. It's the direction our soul wants to go. But in going in that direction, we have to step out of our comfort zone because it's actually new territory. But the more we do, the more we experience a sense of flow. It doesn't mean there isn't obstacles or challenges, but it's just that sense of we're aligned to our soul path. We're aligned to what we're here to do. And we just feel that knowingness. So eclipses bring about so much change because they're activating that. So we tend to see things being released, like relationships come to an end during eclipses very often if they're no longer serving us, right? Clearly, many of us survive eclipses and our relationships are still together. So not all of us, but if relationships are meant to come to an end, it's not uncommon to see that in eclipses. Or we can see like a reset of like what patterns have to come to an end, what is no longer like acceptable, like what needs to end, where is there a boundary? And then as we have the courage to let go of what isn't serving us, the new comes in. So this is where we really align to what lights me up today, because we are always growing and evolving. So we get to look at what am I stepping into. So this current eclipse that's coming up on the 8th, so in April 8th, this is huge. I know it's a total solar eclipse in the sign of Aries on the north node. So it's a lot of new beginning energy. So there's the new moon, the new beginning. There's the north node, the direction we're going. There's Aries, the first sign of the zodiac. So it's a big theme of rebirth for a lot of people. And it can feel hard because with the rebirth is what has to go. So a lot of people are becoming aware of old patterns coming up, old fears, even old trauma, but it's not to pull us into the past. It's to make us aware of what's there that's wanting love, attention, and awareness so we can heal it and begin to move forward. So big rebirth energy. And Aries is all about the self. So it's how we see ourselves, the identities we play in, right? Do we see ourselves as a powerful person? Do we see ourselves as an abundant person? We tend to live up to those core identities that we have, the stories we tell. So this is a chance to revisit that as well and look at where we're going today. So I think a lot of people are in this place of exploring what is it that I want? And it's okay if people are feeling like things are falling away or they're kind of confused about that. It's the discovery of it. Aries is all about let's dive in and discover. We don't need to know all the answers, but let me explore what that is.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. No, I love that. Thank you. And that definitely speaks true to my current life. So I'm actually going to be traveling to where there's totality.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So we're going to bring our son. He wants to see it, which will be pretty cool.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So I'm definitely looking forward to feeling that energy during that time.
Yeah, it's a big thing, and it happens like when the moon travels between the Earth and the sun with a solar eclipse, and then it blocks out the sun, right? So that's that visual and cast shadow on the Earth, and it's very powerful, but whether we can see it or not, it's like we're all going to be feeling it. But so
Oh yeah.
get to like travel and really explore it, because it is like, it's so worth it if you can do that.
Yeah, hopefully it's supposed to be cloudy and rainy, but we'll see. We'll see. But
Right.
regardless, yes, thank you for that educational insight. I think that a lot of people will benefit from that. I think it's I think just with like the externals of like, not to like be low vibe, but like the fear mongering and the news making people worried, like this is something that happens cyclically. This
Oh
is
yeah.
just like the moon phase. Like this is, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone of the world, this is something that occurs all the time throughout history. And one thing that one of my astrology friends and I, we laugh about is like back in the day during ancient times, like when this first started happening, they were probably like, what was that? What just happens? Like, what was that? We need to study this. And then 20 years later, it happens again. Remember when that happened 20 years ago? This is happening again. What is this? We need to figure this out. And then this is what it is. It's okay. Like, it's just a part of our cyclical nature of the universe. And it is a time to grow and evolve and embrace the face of who you are and humanity. And thank you so, so much, Kara, for
Oh yeah.
being on.
Oh, this was so fun. And yeah, I love how you say like it's cyclical. It is, right? And we don't need the fear around it. This is cyclical. This is natural. This has been happening for a very long time.
Yeah. Just keep going with the flow and you'll be
Nothing
fine.
to fear at all. In fact,
No.
it's powerful when we know our power and we know this is a beautiful opportunity for change and transformation, and certainly nothing to fear at all.
Yeah. Would you recommend, if you could give one recommendation for somebody who is going to follow their heart in the same way that you did, what would you give them? Words of wisdom, final words of wisdom.
I would say it's always worth it. It's always worth it. And even through the challenges and obstacles that may emerge when we decide to follow our heart, because it doesn't mean it's just smooth sailing, see it as an initiation. When you see it as, this is helping me become the person I get to be, to hold what I desire, right? It's all adding up. The challenges, obstacles are initiations. And when you follow your heart at the end of the day, that's where true joy is, because that's what you're here to do. So it's always worth it.
I love it. Thank you so much. And thank you again for being on. Thank you everybody for listening, and come back next week for more high vibe content and interviews. Peace out. God bless.